The wrong people to be together, I mean. Not in themselves. They're all charming, really. Who is coming?" Midge pushed thick, wiry black hair from her square forehead with a sturdy brown arm. Nothing insubstantial or fairy-like about her. "Well, John and Gerda, well, that's all right by itself. I mean, John is delightful, most attractive. And as for poor Gerda, well, I mean, we must all be very kind. Very, very kind." Moved by an obscure instinct of defence, Midge said, "Oh, come now, she's not as bad as that. Oh, darling, she's pathetic. Those eyes. And she never seems to understand a single word one says." "She doesn't," said Midge. "Not what you say. But I don't know that I blame her. Your mind, Lucy, goes so fast that to keep pace with it, your conversation takes the most amazing leaps. All the connecting links are left out." "Just like a monkey," said Lady Angkatell vaguely. "But who else is coming besides the Christows? Henrietta, I suppose?" Lady Angkatell's face brightened. "Yes, and I really do feel that she will be a tower of strength. She always is. Henrietta, you know, is really kind. Kind all through, not just on top. She will help a lot with poor Gerda. She was simply wonderful last year. That was the time we played limericks, or word-making, or quotations, or one of those things, and we had all finished and were reading them out when we suddenly discovered that poor dear Gerda hadn't even begun. She wasn't even sure what the game was. It was dreadful, wasn't it, Midge?" "Why anyone ever comes to say with the Angkatells, I don't know," said Midge. "What with the brain work, and the round games, and your peculiar style of conversation, Lucy. Yes, darling, we must be very trying, and it must always be hateful for Gerda, and I often think that if she had any spirit she would stay away. But however, there it was, and the poor dear looked so bewildered and, well, mortified, you know, and John looked so dreadfully impatient, and I simply couldn't think of how to make things all right again. And it was then that I felt so grateful to Henrietta. She turned right round to Gerda and asked about the pullover she was wearing. Really a dreadful affair in faded lettuce green, too depressing and jumble-sale, darling. And Gerda brightened up at once. It seems that she had knitted it herself, and Henrietta asked her for the pattern, and Gerda looked so happy and proud. And that is what I mean about Henrietta. She can always do that sort of thing. It's a kind of knack." "She takes trouble," said Midge slowly. "Yes, and she knows what to say." "Ah," said Midge, "but it goes further than saying. Do you know, Lucy, that Henrietta actually knitted that pullover?" "Oh, my dear!" Lady Angkatell looked grave. "And wore it?" "And wore it. Henrietta carries things through." "And was it very dreadful?" "No. On Henrietta it looked very nice." "Well, of course it would. That's just the difference between Henrietta and Gerda. Everything Henrietta does, she does well, and it turns out right. She's clever about nearly everything, as well as in her own line. I must say, Midge, that if anyone carries us through this weekend, it will be Henrietta. She will be nice to Gerda, and she will amuse Henry, and she'll keep John in a good temper, and I'm sure she'll be most helpful with David." "David Angkatell?" "Yes, he's just down from Oxford, or perhaps Cambridge. Boys of that age are so difficult, especially when they're intellectual. David is very intellectual. One wishes that they could put off being intellectual until they were rather older. As it is, they always glower at one so and bite their nails, and seem to have so many spots, and sometimes an Adam's apple as well. And they either won't speak at all, or else they're very loud and contradictory. Still, as I say, I'm trusting to Henrietta. She's very tactful and asks the right kind of questions, and being a sculptress, they respect her, especially as she doesn't just carve animals or children's heads, but does advanced things like that curious affair in metal and plaster that she exhibited at the New Artists last year. It looked rather like a Heath Robinson stepladder. It was called Ascending Thought or something like that. It's the kind of thing that would impress a boy like David. I thought myself it was just silly." "Dear Lucy. But some of Henrietta's things I think are quite lovely. That weeping ash tree figure, for instance. Henrietta has a touch of real genius, I think, and she is a very lovely and satisfying person as well," said Midge. Lady Angkatell got up and drifted over to the window again. She played absent-mindedly with the blind cord. "Why acorns, I wonder?" she murmured. "Acorns? On the blind cord? Like pineapples on gates. I mean, there must be a reason, because it might just as easily be a fir cone or a pear. But it's always an acorn. Mast, they call it in crosswords, you know, for pigs. So curious, I always think. Don't ramble off, Lucy. You came in here to talk about the weekend, and I can't see why you were so anxious about it. If you manage to keep off round games and try to be coherent when you're talking to Gerda, and put Henrietta on to tame intellectual David, where is the difficulty? Well, for one thing, darling, Edward is coming." "Oh, Edward." Midge was silent for a moment, after saying the name. Then she asked quietly, "What on earth made you ask Edward for this weekend?" "I didn't, Midge. That's just it.